years ago, when we came to Los Angeles, I really believed that the greatness of the Raiders would be in its future.
We back. What's going on, Raider Nation?
Welcome to the 50-50 Show with PharoahNFL and the Severe Raider. The realest show for Raider Nation. 2 points of view. One verdict. You decide.
Hey, man, we appreciate everybody's patience, man. Hey, look, man, we got a problem. We're working on it, man. We have a lot of things outside of YouTube that we got to take care of, but no excuses. We need to be better. We appreciate everybody's patience. We're gonna have a great show. Hey, y'all seen it? Y'all seen the title? We got a special guest. We had an interview, and we're gonna get into it in just a second, man. But we gotta show some we gotta show some love to the night crew, man. So make sure to clock in, hit that like button, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell. All that good stuff, man. Appreciate everybody coming through, like I said. And let's get into it, man. We see people pulling up, man. We see people been waiting, man. Milka Beezy in the building, man. Look, hey, we got Milka Beezy. Look, let me just go ahead and put him on the screen real quick. Salute my guys, man. Appreciate you coming through. We got Space Beast. He says starts at 0 dark 30. Hey, we know it's coming. We know the jokes. We know y'all gonna be clowning in the chat. The whole time me and Severe was like, oh man, the chat's for sure going crazy, man. But now we appreciate y'all patience, man. Once again, and Space Beast, I appreciate you. My guy he starts it off right with a super chat. I got you. He says, what I love about Severe and Pharaoh, I'm never late. Oh, man. Damn, man. Hey, man. Space Beast, man, we appreciate you coming through, man. As usual, man. Like, you're one of our day ones. that was funny. Clowning for sure. The Raider Room, one of the best Raider IG channels out. He says, testing. Is this thing on? Hey, man, I'm going to let you know, man. It was a whole lot of that going on, too. I'm not trying to make any excuses, but there definitely a whole lot of that going on. My guy, Raider Smoke 89 in the building. He says, let's go. Sanjeet in the building. Going to be a massive. Yes, sir. Yeah, man, we going to get into it in just a second. We just want to show some love to the people who've been patiently waiting. Man, Chavon, Bassbed says, "Let's go." All right, man. I got you, man. Let's do it. Let's go. We got Carlos Enfuega. He says Raiders potentially he's getting it started already. He says Raiders potentially want to trade up for Jaden Daniels. Rumors, even though it's out there. My idea is to trade back, get more draft capital or picks, still getting a potential, I guess he's potential QB maybe in the future. I don't know that last part. But I hear you, man. It's smoke season right now, and it's in full effect. Especially right before the draft, teams are gonna try to, bring in guys that they're really not interested in, but they want everybody to know that they're bringing in guys. Like, yeah, we might draft this guy. Look, we're talking to him. Like he's in here for a visit. There's gonna be a whole lot of that going on, and Albert Breers and the Ian Rappaports and the Adam Schefters. They're gonna. This is where that's why they get paid the big bucks. They're gonna be talking about all types of scenarios, but we won't know until the draft, man. We won't know what exactly is going to go on. It's going to be interesting, man, because it's some of it we're like, are they really going to draft this guy at this spot, But we'll get into it, man. We got a good show ahead of us. But look, we got Lord Rashida says, how many times is this live going to get pushed back? Hey, man. Hey, look, I'm not afraid to put this on the screen, man. Look, man, I appreciate you patiently waiting, man. My guy Sean Schefter Johnson in the building, man. Appreciate you coming through. Real Talk Raider Nation in the building, man. Appreciate you coming through, my guy.
Salute to you, brother. Appreciate you.
Salute. The king of mods, man. I'm just gonna say it, man. The king of mods is in the building, man. We got to give him we got to give him the salute. Daniel Kim, my guy, Daniel Kim, man. Hey, man, appreciate you coming through. Hey, look, Raider Smoke 89. Space B started off right. Raider Smoke 89 is not far behind him. He says with the super chat, man. I got you, man. Appreciate you with the super chat. He says, start this thing off the right way. Yeah, area in the building. Yeah, I mean, I'm about to get something for the Bay, man. I got to put some little sound effect, man. Hey, man, we got to. Hey, Raider Smoke, you actually inspired me right now. So I'm gonna put something just for this comment right here. I got you. I'm gonna have something lined up for you next week. But let's not wait. Let's not wait any longer, man. Like we got a special guest, Sanjeet, Las Vegas Raiders Network. We had an interview with him. We were able to talk to him of all things Raiders. You already know it. You know what I mean? We're not going to talk about anything less. And I'm not going to have you guys waiting, man. Here we go. What's going on, everybody, man? We got a special guest today, man. As you can see it on the screen, Sanjeet. Let's give him a round of applause, man. Appreciate you coming through. Man, Sanjeet, man, hey, one of our biggest guests, man. We appreciate you coming through. Man, I don't want to waste any time, man. How's everything going on with you, man?
I'm doing good, man. Busy, super busy with work. Just trying to get things going. I got my YouTube channels. I got my actual work. My work's coming to an end, so that should free up some time here soon. But I'm good, man. Excited for the draft. Draft time's always the best time of the year for me. What about you, man? How you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. Hey, you make it work, man, because every time I go on YouTube, man, you're shooting out content left and right.
Yeah. It's a new Sanjeet video, man. It's one or two some days, man. Like, dang.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to get as much content as I can. It's a slower time though now. It's hard putting content out at this time, right?
Yeah.
And I try not to just throw things out. If I have to skip days, I'll skip days.
Right. Well, let's not waste any time, man. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into, man, the state of the Raiders, man. Like, obviously, everybody, if you're a Raider fan, you know what's happened since the last offseason up until now. New coaching regime, new GM. How do you feel about the coaching staff, man? I actually want to get into that with you. Like, how do you feel about the O-line coaches, the offensive coordinators, just the coaching staff overall? Because did we upgrade from McDaniels? Do you feel like there was a big upgrade, or do you feel like this might be a transition year? Not to be negative, Raider Nation. I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah, I think Antonio Pierce as a head coach is a solid head coach. Right? There's no questions about it. People want to play for Antonio Pierce. He gets the best out of players, right? Players that may not work out somewhere else. Antonio Pierce will get the best out of them. I have no doubt in my mind, as a head coach, Pierce will have success. Patrick Graham, we saw what he could do in year 2. Hopefully he's able to kind of do that going into year 3. Luke Getsy, I'm not 100% sold on. And, no sugarcoating. I did not like Luke. If you guys watched any of my videos before we actually hired an offensive coordinator, the guy I was saying did not get was Luke Getsy. 100% of the time, it just didn't make sense to me. We saw him as a first-time offensive coordinator with Justin Fields. Fields was a young football player. Getsy could have kind of shaped him however he wants. And the Raiders, we're at the point now where if we bring in a young quarterback, is Getsy going to kind of do to that quarterback what ultimately happened with Justin Fields, right? So I'm not 100% sold on Getsy. To me, I don't think this coaching staff is worse than the Josh McDaniels coaching staff, especially when you consider the fact that, McDaniels as a head coach is a worse head coach than Antonio Pierce was.
Mm-hmm.
But as an offense, will we be worse now as opposed to under Josh McDaniels? I don't know, right? That's going to be the thing that we're going to see as we kind of go forward.
Yeah. So what specifically about Luke Getsy are you not a big fan of? Because we know that he came from the Chicago Bears. He was the offensive coordinator for them, and he coached the quarterback, Justin Fields, who was just traded this offseason. My guy Severe over here, he's not the biggest Justin Fields fan. But what about his offense do you feel like, you're not a big fan of? Because that offensive coordinator position is a huge position for a defensive head coach.
Right.
If you have a defensive head coach, you want to make sure that offensive coordinator position is a home run. What about Luke Getsy that you don't like?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, right? If for Antonio Pierce to be a defensive guy, Luke Getsy is going to be the difference of Antonio Pierce being here in 2 or 3 years versus Antonio Pierce not being here. Right? Getsy is going to be a big factor to that. To me, what I don't like about Getsy, and I watched a lot of the Bears over the past 2 seasons, and that was primarily for the Football Scout channel. The Bears were one of probably the 4 teams that I made a video every week on. Whether it was the O-line, an individual player, a D-line, or whatever it was. I watched pretty much every Bears game over the past 2 seasons. And when I watched Getsy, there were just so many things that were out of place. One of the things that we have to keep in mind is it's going to be Getsy's responsibility that, when Trey Tucker and Michael Mayer are out there and they're running a specific concept, let's say they're running a spacing concept over to the right, it's going to be up to Getsy to coach those guys to be in the right spots, right? Hey, you're going to do a 4-yard hitch or, 7 yards out here, and this is kind of where you're going to attack. And one of the issues I saw with the Bears was guys were running into each other. Guys were running the same routes. Guys were confused, right? And that's up to an offensive coordinator and the way they're calling plays to make it easy for a guy to kind of understand the verbiage and those type of things. And with Getsy, he did not do a good job in installing his offense, in my opinion. Right? I felt like the Bears underperformed with Getsy. And I say that because the Bears' offensive line is legit. Right, especially this past season, it was legit. They had really good guards. They had a rookie right tackle who was my number 1 tackle coming out last season. I think he was the best best rookie tackle coming out, and he was the best rookie tackle just in the NFL last season. And I felt like they underperformed. They had DJ Moore, Cole Kmet was one of the breakout tight ends this past season. Justin Fields could have been. And I will say this to myself, if you took Justin Fields and Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan was his coach, would he be more successful? Right? I would say absolutely he would be way more successful. And we should be comparing our offensive coach to the best offensive coaches out there, right? And the last 2 seasons, Getsy was nowhere near Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay or any of the other great offensive coaches. All right, Luke Getsy was a bottom 10 offensive coach. And I think there's so much more to than just saying it was all Justin Fields' fault. Right? I think Getsy had a big part of that as well. And I think as us Raider fans, we just have to not be too excited going into this and just think that Getsy's going to be the guy and he's going to get it done. He's going to be a top 5 coach because he's shown us that he's not that. Right? At least in the past, that's what he kind of showed us.
Right. Man,
yeah, I guess my question for that is, like, for example, you mentioned Kyle Shanahan, right? Kyle Shanahan is the guy we consider one of the best offensive coordinators in the league, one of the best offensive minds in the league, probably over the past 2 decades. He had a guy that they traded multiple first-round picks for, and Trey Lance, who went up. They couldn't get Trey Lance to work. We had Matt Nagy, right? Matt Nagy was offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. They won the Super Bowl, gets a job with the Bears. Justin Fields fails under Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy goes back to the Chiefs. They win the Super Bowl. Luke Getsy is a wide receiver coach with the Green Bay Packers. Devontae Adams has some of his best years there as a wide receiver there. He's quarterback's coach. He sets the path for Jordan Love. Jordan Love has a breakout year this year. Luke Getsy gets fired. He subsequently gets 4 offensive coordinator interviews. Justin Fields becomes available as a quarterback. The best the Bears can do is a 6th-round pick that can turn into a 4th if he gets 50% playing time, but he's going to a situation where they for sure have an established starter. So barring something crazy happening, there's no way in the world they're getting a 4th-round picks. So in my opinion, the league is telling us they think the problem in Chicago is Justin Fields. In fact, the Chicago Bears told us that they think the problem in Chicago is Justin Fields because they just traded a guy that they traded up for a 6th-round pick.
So do you think if the Chicago Bears did not have the number 1 overall pick, they would have traded Justin Fields? If they were picking only with the 9th overall pick, you think they're trading away Justin Fields, or you think they're rolling forward with Justin Fields?
I think that they had a business decision to make. Justin Fields makes $4 million this year. They have to make a decision on his 5th-year option. So at the decision, do we want to pay $25 million to a guy who has 300 yards games in his career? Ironically, those games came last year under Luke Getsy. Or do we want to move forward and hit the reset button on a younger quarterback and get another 5 or get another 4 years with a younger quarterback with possibly more potential, and we can kind of keep that salary structure in place and maybe spend that money elsewhere? I think the decision is clear. I think they were kind of done with Justin Fields. Whether
here's the thing, though. That's debatable. They had the number 1 overall pick last year, and they traded it away. Right? They decided that they're going to keep Fields. This season, they decided we're going to take one of the best prospects. That was one of the best prospects we've ever seen at the quarterback position. We're going to take him, reset the clock. But another interesting thing is the Bears decided, hey, Luke Getsy's not good enough. We're not going to trust this guy with our next quarterback because he failed with the last one. So you're saying that, you're implying that Luke Getsy wasn't the issue and it was Justin Fields, but Luke Getsy also got fired, right? And then on top of that, you're saying, Luke Getsy and Devontae Adams. I don't think Luke Getsy has as much credit with Devontae Adams' career and how he kind of turned out. To me at least, right? Luke Getsy has not proven that he's going to have success with the Raiders, right? Like, it's not guaranteed that this guy's going to be successful. At the end of the day, he had 2 years to prove himself and he got fired. Now, you can say, Kyle Shanahan had Trey Lance and, that never worked out. At the end of the day, Trey Lance wasn't healthy, so we don't know if this guy would have ultimately ever worked out or not. The 1 year that he ended up having the option to possibly take over, he got hurt, missed the rest of the season. And with that, they ended up also finding a rookie quarterback who ended up just breaking out in Brock Purdy, right? And he kind of just took over. And the 49ers didn't look back, right? So it's not necessarily that, I think Trey Lance is, Kyle Shanahan couldn't make Trey Lance work. I don't think that's the right way to look at it. That's my personal opinion. Right.
We saw Trey Lance early in the year, and Trey Lance didn't look like he was going. Now, maybe he has a resurgence. Maybe he does a Jordan Love in the second half of the year. He turns into a completely different player. But what we saw on tape, Trey Lance was not. What we saw in preseason, Trey Lance didn't look good. And what we saw during the regular season, Trey Lance didn't look good. So it was a situation where we had no sample size. We never saw Trey Lance in the real NFL game. We saw Trey Lance, and Trey Lance he wasn't good. He wasn't good as a quarterback. So much so that they kind of sold short on him. I think they got a third. Did they get a third from the Cowboys for him? If I recall correctly. But in terms of Devontae, I mean, you listen to what Devontae says about him. I don't have to speak for Luke Getsy and what Luke Getsy did for Devontae. Devontae, these are words straight from Devontae's mouth. This is Devontae co-signing Luke Getsy as an offensive guy or as a coach and talking about what he did for him. So at the end of the day, I think Matt Eberflus had a decision to make. Do we want to continue with Luke Getsy? When they had a passing game that struggled, I think Ryan Poles had a decision to make. Do we want to go forward with Luke Getsy? And they decided to hit the reset button. But they're likely both going to be out of a job this year if things don't work out. So,
Right.
I mean, I think it's going to be a trifecta. Everybody's going to be out in Chicago.
You think Ryan
Right.
Poles gets fired from the Bears?
I think there's a possibility. Yeah, I think there's a possibility.
I don't know, man. I think Poles is a legit
I mean,
general
that's
manager.
it.
I think
This
he's
be
good.
this be his third head coach. He hired Nagy and Eberflus, right?
I don't know if he hired Nagy. I'm not sure about that, but I think he's done a good job drafting. Right, he's done a good job drafting. He took the tackle that I think was the right decision. The guy clearly has revamped that offensive line. He made the smart decision with the Montez Sweat trade, signed him. I think he did a good job handling like that rebuild. I think the Raiders kind of went through that as well when John Gruden kind of took over, and I feel like we're kind of built well, but I think the Bears have done a good job as well in their build, and I think Poles deserves credit for that.
Well, not to stay on Luke Getsy, I mean, that's a controversial topic for sure. I mean, I wasn't 100% confident in Luke Getsy because obviously they had probably one of the interesting offenses the last couple of years with Chicago, and you could probably talk about, Justin Fields, Luke Getsy. I get it, and it sucks because now we got a big decision to make at the quarterback position, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's talk about the offensive line coach. I know you're big on O-line. How do you feel about James Craig? He's coming from San Francisco. He was assistant O-line coach over there. We already know that San Francisco has been successful over there with their offensive line. I believe he won an award with LSU as one of the top O-lines, so he was part of that success as well. So there's a trail he's leaving behind, and it's a lot of success. How do you feel about him coming to the Raiders?
Yeah, I think he obviously isn't. He was obviously not the actual offensive line coach for the 49ers. He was an assistant. To me, it's one of those hires where you don't really know what you're getting, right? It's like hiring a quarterback's coach and then making him your offensive coordinator. You don't really know if he's going to be a good offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Craig's going to be an interesting guy, right? On one end, he has done it where he has had to install the offensive line. He's been a run game coordinator in the past. With the 49ers, he was not their run game coordinator. So I don't know if he has actual experience doing it in the NFL, but I don't think that should matter all that much. I think it's a good hire in terms of like it has upside, but we won't know if it's going to actually work out until we start seeing, this offense. But more than that, we got to see guys develop. I think Dylan Parham took a step back in his second season, right? I feel like he was better his rookie year, really didn't get better his second season. I felt like Andre James kind of got worse, and I know the scheme fit. There's some issues with the scheme fit. We'll see what ends up happening. I think it's a good hire in terms of the guy is a good coach. He's done it at LSU. He was with the 49ers. He obviously had success there. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I do like the hire of the actual guy and kind of his background.
Right. And
I mean, I know you study. I know you study a lot of college tape. Were those offensive linemen out of LSU? Did when he was there, did they look like they were like well coached when they were coming? Like, did they look prepared for the league? I know you love O-line, so I know you probably looked at a lot of those guys. Cushenberry, I know it was a prime example of a guy that he had at LSU who was going on to have some success in the league. Did those guys look like they had been coached pretty well there at LSU?
I haven't watched the tape from the LSU. I don't really know any of the guys that have actually come out of LSU. Minus, I know Damian Lewis came out of LSU. I think the 49ers actually drafted an offensive line. I think his name's, what's his name? I can't think of his name. They took an LSU guy as well, or maybe it was the Seahawks took an LSU guy as well. But I know like Damian Lewis, for example, was coached directly from James Craig, and he's a pretty good offensive line coach. Ended up getting paid like $12, $13 million this free agency cycle. I don't really know, honestly. It's a good question. Have you looked at any of the guys that have come out under him?
Cushenberry is a guy that I looked at last year, and he's a guy that he was pretty high draft pick. Of course he's with the Broncos now, but he got paid, and he was a guy that if we moved on from Andre James, he was somebody I had interest in. But of course, we elected to bring Andre James back, so maybe they have more confidence in what maybe what Craig can do with Andre James as opposed to paying more for a guy like Cushenberry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and Just one more thing about the offensive line group. I know you mentioned that some of the O line from last season kind of regressed a little bit, and with under the McDaniel's regime, maybe you could talk about this a little bit. Not that they had a different scheme that they're running. I don't know if it was a combination of power gap scheme and zone blocking, but from what I'm hearing, the scheme that the Raiders are going to be running this year is going to be zone blocking. Do you think that will be a big help to some of the players that are on our O-line? Maybe a better fit?
Yeah, 100%. Colt Miller, when we drafted him, he was for John Gruden. Gruden ran the zone. Now Gruden ran inside zone more as opposed to what we're going to get now. But zone is zone. I think for Colton, for Andre, Dylan, Parham, I think zone makes sense for all those guys. It's going to be interesting though, because I think run blocking's 30% of an offense, maybe even less, right? Pass blocking's where it's at, right? Because you got to be a good pass blocking offensive line if you want to have success. And I don't. The one concern I would have is under James, we've seen him struggle even in pass pro. One of the things we had to do a lot this past season was we had to chip with our tight ends, we had to chip with our running backs, and we had to help our tackles. And the reason why was because the guard and centers had to 3-on-2, right? So those guys needed help on the inside, so we had to help the guys on the outside. To me, you can't win that way, right? Because then you're going to be a slow-paced offense where you're only running 3 receivers out. You'll have 2 guys that are really chipping or double teaming, whatever, and then they're going to run shorter routes, right? They're not going to run, right down the middle of the field or whatever, So I think the Raiders got to get better on the offensive line. And I think we have so many needs on the offensive line that, you don't want to try to get a new center, right guard, and right tackle all in one offseason, right? So I think the smart decision was to re-sign Andre James. I think that just made sense. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really just a 1-year contract, right? Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's just a 1-year contract. I think if we cut him after 1 year, the second year we lose, I think like $2 or $3 million in dead cap. Yeah. So essentially, it's really just a 1-year contract, right? But I do think that we got to figure out the right guard, right tackle position first. And centers kind of take time to develop anyway. So if you were to draft the guy this offseason, it's going to take that guy a year or 2 to develop anyways, right? So I think that would just kind of be a natural fit for whatever center the Raiders, if they were to go that route as well, But from a scheme fit perspective, absolutely, this scheme's going to make way more sense. A lot more zone heavy, and we will also run both power and gap and those type of things, but it will definitely be more favored towards zone. With McDaniels, I don't think we ran zone more than 10% of the time, right? Mm-hmm. And that too, like from a coaching standpoint, the guys struggled. Like you can tell when we ran zone, guys were just missing blocks. You had defensive tackles that like slant towards the backside and they just jumped the gap because whoever the backside guard or tackle was weren't able to properly pick it up. So for example, we see like Colt Miller's a great zone blocker, and if we had a play to the right, I feel like because we were missing guys, right? So things just didn't look that fluid. I think we'll be better as we go forward, specifically with run blocking.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of scheme fit, I think Colton, I think Dylan as well as Andre, I think they're a much better scheme fit in a zone blocking scheme. It's going to be outside zone scheme. I think it's a similar scheme to what Kyle Shanahan runs. I think Sean McVay runs the same thing as well. But what about a guy like Thayer Munford? I know we're looking at him at either a right tackle or a right guard. Do you think he has the requisite agility and athleticism to be a successful guy that can execute in the zone blocking scheme?
I personally do not see that from Munford. One of the things I do when I watch tape, and I think everybody should do this, offensive linemen should, the great offensive linemen win 99% of their snaps, right? The truly elite offensive linemen. Even the worst offensive linemen are still going to win like 75% of their snaps, right? Because sometimes it's a bootleg to the right, and if you're a left tackle, it doesn't impact you. The play's away from you, right? So it's technically going to be a win for you. Then you got run plays where you're maybe like backside blocking or down blocking. It's hard to lose those snaps. So one of the things I do is I watch tape of guys, and Thayer Munford's a great example of this. I'll watch him when he's in true pass sets where it's just one-on-one and there's no chips. And if you take just those snaps, you will see that this guy struggles, right? No chips, true one-on-one pass blocking sets, he struggles. What teams do is they'll put him in space. They'll line up their fastest defense ends or whatever it is. They'll line them out a little bit further wide. They'll make Darren Munford have to really set out and kind of get away from that guard, and they'll put him in space, and they'll struggle. Zone blocking, there wasn't a whole lot to watch from this past season, but you guys can find those as well, especially as Antonio Pierce took over. We ran more zone last season. He struggles, right? He struggles to reach. He struggles to do those type of things. So as an offensive tackle, I don't think Darren Munford is going to work for the Raiders. I have very, very, very low confidence in that. As a guard, I think he can make it work. I think he's still going to be a little slow. So I do think that in that aspect, as a guard, you still have to reach, right? Reaching doesn't stop depending on if you're tackle or a guard, right? There's going to be times where running outside zone to the right, and let's say he's a starting right guard, he'll have to go, climb through the linebacker. Is he going to be able to reach and get to that linebacker, or is that linebacker going to be able to beat him to the spot, right? So those moments are going to matter, and I just don't think Darren Munford's really built for a zone-heavy scheme, right?
Yeah, and well, another thing is too is you kind of pointed this out, and I think it's like the elephant in the room. We all, Raider Nation all knows this. Right guard and right tackle are like the guard spot and that tackle spot is a big, huge, problem area right now. And the Raiders didn't really make any attempts to sign anybody in free agency, but the contracts that were given out to some of these guards were crazy. And maybe that was why a guy like Andre James was kind of like brought back, because they kind of seen that as a way of just going cheaper at that position. Might have been a Band-Aid, but still, strategically speaking, they felt like that was probably the best route. That being said, they did sign, they re-signed
Jordan Meredith.
The other day, Jordan Meredith. Now, if the draft was tomorrow, and let's say if we didn't go quarterback in the first round, who are you looking at pick number 13?
I think right tackle makes the most sense. All right, it's not always the sexiest pick, taking offensive lineman, but what do the Raiders really need? Right, if you look at the 13th overall pick, there's only three positions you're going to take with that pick, right? Unless you trade it up and take a quarterback, right? So quarterback would be one position at pick 13. You could take a corner or you could take a tackle. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to take a running back or a linebacker at pick 13. You're not going to take a guard. Some people will say maybe take Jackson Powers-Johnson. He'd be probably the only player that I would even consider outside of a quarterback, a tackle, or a corner. To me, if you're leaving it up to me, Talisia Fuaga I think should be there. Some people are saying Olu Fashanu will be there. He's another option for me. I would take. J.C. Latham could possibly be there. I would take him as well. Joe Walt could be there. I don't know. Some people say he's the number one tackle coming out, but I would take him. Left tackle or not, I'm moving them to right tackle, right? I think those guys all have so much upside. This class is deep too, right? So you got like 6 or 7 tackles that are first-round tackles, right? So to me, I'm taking an offensive tackle this class. I think it just makes sense.
And talking about this deep class, so let's say something crazy happens, right? We were able to get our quarterback of choice at 13, and we want to go with a tackle in the second round. Are there some guys that you think that you have identified that are potential first round values that would be available in the second round?
Yeah, one of the interesting things is I think there's 6 guys that could be first round picks, but tackle is one of those. Tackle is like quarterback. You'll take that quarterback that may be a second round grade. You'll take him in the first round because he's a quarterback and has potential to develop. There's guys like, for example, Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. Some people really like Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame. Amarius Mims out of Georgia. Those guys could ultimately all end up going in the first round, but they could also be there in the second round as well, right? So it just depends on how many quarterbacks go in the first, how many wide receivers. Because I think there's a chance we get 6 quarterbacks in the first round. There's a chance we get like 7 wide receivers in the first round. Maybe not 7, but like maybe 5 or 6 wide receivers in the first round. We'll get 1 tight end. We'll get a bunch of other players that I think are valued as first round picks, like Jackson Powers-Johnson, I think a first round pick. What non-quarterback tackle? And there's a bunch of corners as well. There's probably gonna be like 4 first round corners. there's a legit chance that some of these guys like Tyler Guyton or Mims end up falling in the second round. Blake Fisher could be a second or a third round guy. Caden Wallace out of Penn State is another interesting player. One of the hard things for us is, we can go to all the different mock drafts, right? But let's be honest, to a point, mock drafts are only based off of other mock drafts, right? Let's just, a great example is 2 years ago, the Philadelphia Eagles took this center. This guy was the best center I had ever watched coming out of college. I've never seen a center like this kid. He came out of, I believe it was Nebraska. His name was Cam Jurgens. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He started at right guard this season for the Eagles. The season before, he was a rookie. He was the backup center. Next year, he'll be the starting center of the Eagles. The guy's tape was phenomenal, but you wouldn't find him picked anywhere in the top 4 or 5 rounds in mock drafts, right? But the Eagles valued him as a second-round pick. They took him in the top 40 picks, right? So to a point, mock drafts don't really tell us the full value of what teams actually think about certain guys. So that's kind of my point, is that, like, don't be surprised if JC Latham goes in the second round or something, right? Something crazy like that kind of happens,
Right.
Yeah. Or Blake Fisher goes higher than what people expect,
Right. No. And and the thing is, it's crazy because right now everybody's talking about the quarterback position, but that offensive line is like the biggest, need that we have. I mean, you can say quarterback, but where we're at 13, we probably can get a better player at that offensive line position better than that quarterback position.
Right.
Now, moving on to the quarterback position, you make a good point. You where you say teams might value certain players more than the maybe the outside public might value at certain positions, especially that quarterback position, because we're hearing it's smoke season right now. We're hearing all types of crazy things. Like, obviously the first 4 picks can be quarterback. You got the J.J. McCarthy's going in the top 10, top 5, who early on in the process, people didn't see him going in the top 5 or top 10. Now he's looked at as a top 5, top 10 pick. And now, as recently, Michael Penix had a really good pro day. He was able to show his athleticism. And now everybody's talking about him kind of creeping up into that, first half of that first round. Now, in your opinion, at pick number 13, do you see the Raiders do you feel like the Raiders are going to be trading up to get that quarterback? Who would that be? Or if staying at 13 and maybe taking a guy like a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix? I seen you recently talk about Bo Nix. Seemed like you liked him a little bit, but you're not as big on him as compared to Michael Penix, because you said something interesting about him is that he kind of holds the ball a little bit. He doesn't make really quick decisions. Right. But who, in your opinion, who are your guys at that quarterback position in the draft?
So quarterback's always weird, right? Because early on, people are like, "Oh, Drake May might be better than Caleb Williams." Right? Drake May's the number 1 overall pick, possibly. Drake May might be there at pick 13, and the Raiders may just skip him, right? Which is crazy to me because I watch his tape. I think he looks really good, right? And now people are like, "Oh, J.J. McCarthy's QB2." So it's always hard to really analyze these guys. But for me, I feel like there's a chance that we are going to end up seeing 6 quarterbacks go in the top 15. And honestly, if the Raiders want a quarterback, there's a chance we may have to even trade up, right? Because there's wild cards, right? Like the Falcons, the Giants, right? And I think there's no question, right? The Broncos and Vikings are taking quarterback. Plus, you got 3 teams of the pick 1, 2, and 3 with the Bears, the Patriots, the Commanders. That's 5 teams that for sure before the Raiders want quarterbacks. The Raiders are the 6th team that for sure want quarterbacks, and then there's 2 wild card teams, right? The Falcons. Are the Jets picked for the Raiders? I think they do, right? So that may be a wild card team as well, right? There could be 3 wild card teams that take quarterbacks. If the Raiders want a quarterback, you're going to have to trade up. I think there's a chance the Patriots could trade the 3rd overall pick. There's a chance that the Patriots feel like, hey, we want either J.J. McCarthy or Caleb Williams. And outside of that, we value Marvin Harrison Jr. as a better fit for the 3rd overall pick than whoever their quarterback 3 is, right? And maybe all the teams agree that, hey, there is really no first-round quarterback outside of McCarthy and Williams, right? So we don't know what's going to happen. Remember, Will Levis was like the guy last year, and then he ended up falling down in the 2nd round. Right, so something like that could happen, and Drake May could be there. And Bo Nix and Michael Penix may be there. We may skip out on all of those guys, right? So I don't really know what's going to end up happening. I do predict I think multiple quarterbacks will get taken.
Right.
But I wouldn't mind any of the 6 quarterbacks, to be honest. I think it gives us at least the upside that we could be legit if we take one of these rookie quarterbacks. I have very, very low confidence in Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Like going into this season with those 2 guys.
What, Sanji? Are you serious?
I personally have low confidence in those 2 guys, man. I just don't see it.
And I think we were talking about something. I mean, I was watching one of your videos, and you kind of hit on something that me and Pharaoh talked about previously, and it's in the interaction that Antonio Pierce had when he was talking about quarterbacks, and this is before free agency. He's like, no, there's many ways to get a quarterback. He talked about free agency, and of course that's kind of coming past, and we ended up with Gardner Minshew. He talked about the draft, and then it was a key word he said. He said, worst case scenario was we roll with Aiden O'Connell. So I think that kind of lets you into his psychology with saying that if everything else fails, if we miss out on every other option, then this is who we go with that quarterback. So I think it's pretty clear that we've identified that quarterback is a need. And like you said, I wouldn't be happy with any of the 6, but half of the 6 I'd be happy with. And I've identified Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix. I'm a little bit different than everybody. I have them as 1 and 2. I have Caleb Williams 3rd. So it was a point that at one point in time we thought we can stand pat at 13 and take Jaden Daniels, and then that time went, and then it was a time where we thought we could stand pat at 13 and possibly even trade back and get Michael Penix, and it seems that maybe that train has left the station as well. So are there any later round guys, like assuming, let's say worst case scenario, we'll say this is Aiden O'Connell situation, right? Mm-hmm. All 6 of those quarterbacks go before 13. Is there any like second round guys or mid round guys that you've kind of identified saying, you know what, we get that guard or get that tackle in the first round, maybe we get a guard or corner in the second round, maybe we can get a guy in the 3rd or the 4th, or even 2nd,
Yeah, I think Michael Pratt is an interesting name to keep an eye on out of Tulane. I've heard, I forget who it was. It was one of the quarterback guys on Twitter. They've gotten guys right in the past that you would not think. Like, for example, they say, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback we've ever seen. Stuff like that, right? And they've hit a couple different guys. They say in the 2nd round, Pratt's one of those guys that could have upside, right? Like we saw like Dak Prescott, late round pick. Not late, but, he wasn't a first round pick. Derek Carr's had success. He wasn't a first round pick. Pratt's one of those guys to kind of keep an eye on. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I think, Penix and Nix end up both falling into the 2nd round. So I would take those guys 100% in the 2nd round. No question asked. I'd even take Penix, honestly, at 13. I'd probably take Nix at 13 too, right? But I wouldn't feel as comfortable with Nix at 13. It's hard to say because I think Penix has more of an upside than someone like Nix, right? But I think both guys can work, but I think the wild card is going to be Luke Getsy and how well he can adapt to these guys as quarterbacks. And it's the same thing. You take Michael Pratt. It's going to come down to the offensive coordinator at the end of the day, right? I think Jordan Travis is an interesting player as well, but the thing with any of these late round guys is you really just don't know, right? And at that point, you're basically in the Aiden O'Connell situation, right? Like, you might not love it, but I don't know. I feel like what would make sense for the Raiders is either just trade all the way up and just get that guy, or, take that tackle and let's just go forward with one of these other one of the quarterbacks on our roster, right? Because at least that way, if we're going to lose a bunch of games, we can be in the situation again next season, but we'll have an offensive tackle that could be hopefully a long-term solution at right tackle. Maybe we'll get a linebacker or running back in the 2nd round, and that's our long-term solution there. I'm not too high on taking quarterbacks in the 2nd or 3rd round and then starting them or late round or whatever. I feel like it just doesn't work that often.
Derek Carr.
Right. Derek Carr was a good example of a player that definitely worked out, right? At least for his first couple of seasons, right? It worked out.
Right. But man, Sanjeet, man, I really appreciate you coming through. We know that you're a busy man. I know you got to head out. Tell the people, I mean, obviously, if you don't know, you got to know, man. Like, it's obvious, man. We got Sanjeet from Las Vegas Raiders Network, but let people know like what they should be looking forward to, where they can find you on social media. I know you have multiple YouTube channels as well. If you want to shout that out real quick.
Yeah, so I got the Raiders channel. You guys can see the name right there, Las Vegas Raiders Network. I got the Football Scout, which I would say is really now it's almost like my main YouTube channel, but it does get slow during like this cycle. It kind of gets slow, and I don't really post much on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, but I don't really use those platforms all that much anymore. Twitter, I've kind of taken a break away from. I don't know if I'm really going to come full time back on it.
Man.
I posted like once in the last 7 days, and I feel like life's kind of better without checking Twitter all the time,
Man, social media, man. Sometimes you got to take that break.
Right. I think it's a good time right now too, because when the draft comes around, man, the draft day specifically, I'll be posting like 9 videos. Like every 30 minutes, I'll be posting a video on whoever we draft. That's always the craziest time of the year.
Right, man. It's a good time, man. Especially, I can't wait for the draft, man, because like you said, there's so much unknown. We don't know how teams value certain players, and the draft is where you really know. We're gonna see who's gonna drop, who's gonna be taken earlier than what everybody expected. So it's gonna be an exciting time. But hey, like I said, Sanjeet, appreciate you coming on. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, man. Just go head over to subscribe to Las Vegas Raiders Network as well as Football Scout on YouTube, and follow them all over social media at Sanjeet, right? As Sanjeet T.
Sanjeet T. Yep.
There you go. Appreciate everybody coming through, man. Till next time. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate both of you guys.
All right, man.
Thank you, brother.
I am looking forward to it.
Hey, we thought we was done. I thought we was done.
Welcome to the 50-50 Show.
Hey, if you just joined us, man, that was just a great interview with one of the YouTube goats, the Raider content goats over there, man.
Yes.
Sanjeet, a great interview. Definitely has his his insight on what's going on with the draft and the Raiders, man. We appreciate everybody tuning in. But we're not done, man. There's still a lot of things going on in Raider Nation. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into the chat.
No, before we move on, though, I just have one thing to say. And still, the undisputed champion of the... I mess with you guys.
Man, hey, man. Let's talk about it right now, man. Let's react to the interview with Sanjeet. You and Sanjeet went toe-to-toe with Justin Fields and Luke Getsy, which, I kind of agree, man. That's one of, if we're going to point out, if we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, it is that OC position on the staff. Like, we know the defense is going to play well under AP because we've seen it. Under Patrick Graham, we've seen it. But with Luke Getsy, it's a huge question mark, man. I don't know what to expect. I know you're like, well, it's Justin Fields, he's not that good, but there is also things that Luke Getsy hasn't really proven. He's kind of a guy that we're kind of it was almost like, I don't want to say that's what AP did. It's like, oh man, he ran the ball good against us. He had a rookie free agent playing well against us. Oh, he must be a good OC. I'm not gonna say that AP kind of went about it that way. I'm sure he did his due diligence, but man, I'd be lying to you if I said that Luke Getsy was on the top of our list as far as who we wanted at OC. And I put a poll in the chat, and I feel like a lot of people kind of were debating on who was the problem, Luke Getsy or Justin Fields.
That's all the results.
Let's hold on. Let me see if I can find a poll in here, man. It's probably on YouTube, man. I don't know if it's gonna show up here, but yeah, man, it was pretty close. It was pretty close. But that being said, I actually have an article that was released earlier in the offseason where they ranked offensive play callers going into the 2024 season. So I'm going to put that on the screen. You guys can take a look and let us know if you agree or not. And also, at the same time, man, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen so we can take a look at the top play callers in the NFL. See if y'all could see it here. Boom. All right. So as you can see, courtesy of the 33rd team, ranking every NFL offensive play caller entering the 2024 season. So let's react, man. So Kyle Shanahan, I mean, I'm not going to get mad at this. Kyle Shanahan, he has a proven track record. They have him as the number one play caller in the NFL. And as we go down, and I'm sure let me know in the chat if you can see what's on the list. Sean McVay, number 2, which I'm also not mad at it. I mean, it feels like every offseason, every NFL team is poaching someone from their coaching staff. Like it's either Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, and success usually follows them. So, and then obviously this is not surprising, and you can argue, man, this guy could take the top spot, man. He's the guy that's winning. He's the guy on Sundays that gives every defensive coordinator headaches. Andy Reid, he's been doing it for a long time. Don't matter who's at quarterback, but now he has the best quarterback in the NFL with Patrick Mahomes. But Andy Reid, number 3. So I'm not getting the list. I ain't mad at it. Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan coaching tree guy.
Yeah.
We got the wrong McDaniel.
Yeah, facts.
Matt LaFleur. Is that a Shanahan tree guy?
I
believe
Shanahan,
so, right?
Was that Shanahan or McVay? I can't remember. It's one of the two.
I think they were on the same coaching staff.
With the Redskins, now the Commanders. So was Mike was Mike McDaniel there? No, Mike McDaniel was in Cleveland. Mike McDaniel was in Cleveland.
Yeah. And you got Sean Payton. I'm not gonna show no love to Sean Payton, man. He's a Bronco. It is what it is. He couldn't get it done with Russell Wilson, man. Kevin O'Connell, I like Kevin O'Connell, man. Kevin O'Connell right there, and that's a Sean McVay guy right there. Kevin O'Connell, I believe, is a Sean McVay guy. So I think. Then you got Shane Steichen.
I like Shane Steichen.
Yep. And look, man, I'm telling you, bro. Shane Steichen, he did great things with Jalen Hurts. Made him look like one of the best NFL QBs in the NFL, but he left, and Jalen Hurts looks like he shouldn't. I don't know, man. People are questioning Jalen Hurts at quarterback. That's how bad he looked at times, or inconsistent he looked at times this past NFL season. But he had Anthony Richardson playing well before he got hurt. So, and obviously he coached our quarterback, our current quarterback right now. You can argue he might be our starter, Minshew. He played well with them, and then you got Kevin Stefanski. Is a Shanahan guy? Man, look at all the Stefanski. I think he might be a Shanahan guy too as well. Shanahan?
I don't recall.
I'm telling you, bro, it's crazy, man. The influence that Kyle Shanahan has on this list. Then you got Ben Johnson rounding out the top 10. Todd Monken from Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to speed through this real quick because, at the end of the day, this is a Raider channel, so we're going to get straight to it. Arizona Cardinals OC, Drew Petzing. They like him on here, number 12. The now Carolina Panthers head coach. He was the Tampa Bay's, was he the QB coach or OC? I think he was the OC. I believe he was OC.
I think it was the OC, I believe.
Yeah. So, and then Arthur Smith, he had success with the Tennessee Titans before he moved on to be head coach with the Falcons. We know that didn't work out, but as an OC, I kind of wanted him to come to the Raiders. I'm like, man,
I wouldn't have been mad at that. I wouldn't have been mad at that.
I like that combination with proven track record. He's a veteran OC. He's going to be around for a while because he struck out at head coach, and usually guys don't get that second time around. Contract as a head coach, you know what I mean? Like McDaniels was like he was like, it was just one of those rare things. I don't know why Mark Davis went that route, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Bobby Slowick, your guy right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
OC, Kyle Shanahan guy.
He kind of him being that low, that list kind of loses some credibility. In my opinion, he got Drew Petzing over Bobby Slowick. Sure.
Okay. So look. Let's see what they had to say. Slowick sometimes struggled to come up with answers when thrown out of his rhythm. The playoff game against the Ravens was a fantastic example of that. Slowick continues spam futile inside runs and attempt trick plays to get things going. He had no real substance to turn him on. The thing is, he's a first-time OC. So he's definitely going to get better as time goes on. So maybe give him the benefit of doubt. You got Brian Daboll. So Raider Nation, I want you guys to be very, very concerned right now because the Raiders OC hasn't been ranked yet. So you got Doug Peterson at 17. You got Mike McCarthy at 18. Kellen Moore at 19. Shane Waldron, who just became OC, former Seahawks OC, and he's OC for the Bears. Greg Roman, who just became OC for the Chargers. You know, Jim Harbaugh, that's his guy. Brian Callahan, new head coach for the Titans, was the OC for the Bengals. We all know Brian Callahan. He had his time with the Raiders as a QB coach. Joe Brady for the Bills.
Yeah,
Let's move on, man. Look, look, this is bad. They have a rookie OC, even though he was a successful rookie OC in college. Rookie OC, Cliff Kingsbury. This is messed up. I think they did this on purpose.
Yeah.
At 26, and then at 27, Luke Getsy is the number 27th ranked play caller for the Raiders. And, you know, I can go on and read this. Luke Getsy spent the last 2 seasons calling plays for the Bears with Justin Fields as his quarterback. Fields is sort of a complicating factor in Getsy evaluations. Kind of what we talked about.
Kind of a complicating factor.
Right. On one hand, Fields' athleticism and creativity helped mask how stale the offense was at times. Shots. On the other hand, Fields' limitations, this is where severe comes in, namely quick game passing and anticipation over the middle of the field were severely
They gave me a shout out. They know what time it is.
Limited Getsy's playbook. It's hard to know exactly who holds what portion of the blame for the Bears' offense, never quite figuring itself out. Regardless, Getsy was not an abject at disaster in Chicago and deserves another chance to prove himself. Okay, but they have him number 27th. Damn.
Yeah. See, you know what? So know how you know they're like hedging their bets? They're saying his offense was stale, but then they say the offense is stale because Justin Fields was so bad at passing, but they blame Luke Getsy for the offense being stale. It's like it don't make no the math ain't mathing. So it's one of those situations where, like I said, I think the league kind of spoke on how they feel about both guys. Luke Getsy as offensive coordinator had multiple suitors. You know, we all consider Antonio Pierce as one of the smartest defensive minds, you know, in the game, and he chose Cliff Kingsbury first, but when that fell through, you know, he got hit with Luke Getsy. That was the very next choice, and a lot of other candidates that we wanted were still out there at that time. Guys like Arthur Smith, I believe, was still out there. I think Clint Kubiak, I believe, was still out there. It was a few guys that were, quote unquote, high in our list that were still out there, and he chose Luke Getsy. And Luke Getsy got, as I said, he had 4 interviews in total. Justin Fields got traded for a 6th round pick. So I think you know,
man, I'm
like technical knockout.
If Justin Fields finds you, bro, he's going you and him gonna have something to talk about, man, for sure.
I think I said this before though. If Justin Fields throws punches like he throws footballs,
damn,
I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
Damn. But it's that time. It's that time in the show, man. You already know what it is, man.
Personal foul.
Flag on the play. Giving them the business, man. And guess what, man? Guess who made this flag on the play? I think y'all seen it by accident before we transition to the second half of the show, man. Derek Carr was on social media talking to fans, and he was asked about, you know, when the Raiders play next year, which they play next season. The New Orleans Saints play the Raiders, and Derek Carr was asked about that matchup, and I'm not going to waste any time.
I am looking forward to it. I cannot wait. And hopefully I'm going to try and start a fight with him and punch him and then have the ref only see him throw his punch back. That's my goal.
And courtesy, that's courtesy of Raider Resistance. Salute to him. Make sure to go over there and follow him on IG, one of the best IG Raider channels, man, out there, man. Appreciate the clip. Yeah.
Man,
It's a flag. We anybody that talks mess about the Raiders, you know what I mean, especially former Raiders, we gonna throw a flag out there, man. At the end of the day, I understand. What is he supposed to say? I mean, I'm sure he has. That's going to be a very emotional game for Derek Carr because it's going to be a lot of anger because you got on one side all those fans. I'm sure he hates those fans that talk all that mess about him.
Oh.
And then on the other side,
it's going to be emotional. About the Raiders fans or the Saints fans? Because I mean, you get it.
Oh man,
which man base we talking about? What man base we talking about, man? Yo, bro. First of all, look, I just want to say this, bro. First of all, that is the corniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Bro, that's so damn corny, bro. And what's crazy? What's crazy is that it was a point in time when me and you were both saying, you know what, we should just sign Russell Wilson on the minimum, right? And let him be our bridge quarterback. And like, oh, Russell Wilson don't fit with the culture. He ain't no Raider. Bro, right. That was our quarterback for a decade. Mm-hmm. That dude who lays down and records in portrait mode. Like, that was our quarterback. Like, that dude. So I don't want to, like, like, fit with the culture. I don't want to hear that, man. So it's like, man, come on, man. Come on, bro. Yeah. I hope we stomp those dudes. I hope. I don't care if it's Penix. I don't care if it's Aiden O'Connell. I don't care if it's Gardner Minshew. I don't give it. If we got to put Jacoby at quarterback, I hope we stomp a mud hole in the Saints.
Just to play devil's advocate, because it's the 50-50 show, we show two different perspectives on every situation. What is he supposed to say? I mean, at the end of the day, what is he supposed to say? Like, if someone's asking about his former team that he played with the 9 years, he's gonna be like, and I'm sure, like, he's just playing around, like, he's cool with Max Crosby, and that's his way of talking mess. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I think, it's funny. One of the players on the team was asked who's like the worst, like, trash talker, and I think they named Derek Carr is one of the worst trash talkers on the team. Wow. So it's not surprising that Severe's calling it corny, but at the end of the day, he's gonna stick up for himself. He's gonna say, like, hey man, like, at the end of the day, like, he's gonna talk some mess at the end of the day. And he's played with the team for 9 years. It's gonna be an emotional game for him. It is what it is. That's how it is for every player that played against their former team.
Pharaoh. You gave it the good old college try, okay? you put up a valiant effort trying to defend that nonsense, bro. It's look.
Translation.
It's gonna be. We can call it the 50-50 show, but we can be 100% on this one because that was 100% corny.
Right.
But yeah, man. Like I said, it's. Yeah, man. I don't even have the words, bro. I don't even have the words, man. I don't even have the words.
It is what it is, man. Hey, look, it's definitely a flag. Derek Carr, move on. Hey, Max, you shouldn't be talking to Max Crosby like that because Max gonna come for you.
What did Joey Bosa say about him? What did Joey Bosa say?
Oh man, hey man, that'd be funny if Max retweeted that. That'd be funny if Max retweeted what Joey Bosa, but I'm sure he's not gonna do that. He's not trying to rough. He don't take it that far. He's not gonna take it that far. But in other news, man, before we get into the notable quotables, man, Jack Jones had a rant recently. He had a rant, man, and to be honest with you, it wasn't that big of a deal, man. I don't know. I don't know what everybody was talking about. I've seen people on social media talk about, oh, Jack Jones is out of control and da-da-da-da-da. Most likely it's New England Patriot fans bitter that they lost a good player in Jack Jones and he's playing for the Raiders. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the screen once. If you want to go ahead and address the chat, give me 1 second.
Yes, sir. Man, look at the chat. Like, look, man, we still on this Derek Carr stuff. Derek Carr wants no parts of Max Crosby. The only time Derek Carr was successful in his trash talking is, I think, when he came at Paul Gutierrez, but and kind of G-checked him at a press conference. That was hilarious. But and if y'all saw that Jack Jones rant, y'all know what we about to put up on the screen. It was a few interesting things that he said. There's one thing in particular that kind of had the nation in an uproar. So we're gonna chop it up. We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah. So look, I'm just going to give you the summary as far as what he said about the New England Patriots media. It's just he didn't have a good time out there, man. He didn't like the New England Patriots way, whatever you want to call it. He did shout out and say that he didn't have any issues with Bill Belichick, the coaching staff, and players. It was just certain people within that organization. And it is what it is, man. It didn't work out for him, and he just was being honest. That's the way I looked at it. But to keep it on a positive note, they asked him about who he wanted in the draft. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, courtesy of Raider Resistance, man. Like I said, make sure to go over there and give him a follow on IG, man. It's one of my guys out there. So let me go ahead and put this on the screen for everybody to see, and I'll play the audio here in just a second. Right here, Jaden Daniels, man. So a little sneak preview, but let me play the audio.
Yes.
Let's see here. Man, hold on 1 second. Can you hear it?
Nah.
Hold on.
13? Shit, bro, I'm gonna leave that up to Let's Go. I ain't finna get in that one, bro. I ain't finna cap. Penix or Daniels, man, I'm finna go J5. J5, bro. I hope we can get J5, bro. I ain't 13.
Hey, man, it's no surprise. That's his former teammate. He's gonna want to get Jaden Daniels. So that's his guy. So it's good to hear. And you know what? I'm gonna keep the positivity going. Look, man. When asked, he was asked about if he wanted to stay as a Raider, and this is what he had to say.
Bro, I hope I can re-sign with the Raiders. Do I want to leave? Nah, bro. I don't want to leave. Bro,
You see what I'm saying? Look, man, at the end of the day, it was just another day for the Raiders, man. It wasn't nothing crazy. Don't let social media fool you. I feel like a lot of people were talking about how crazy he was going crazy. He was just being honest. But as far as being a Raider, man, we got the right player on the squad, man. And it's a good thing it's a good thing to see. It's a player like that who's super passionate, and he's playing for the Raiders, and I think he's gonna have a big year next year too. He's gonna have a huge year, especially if you combine that with this D line. It's gonna be crazy, man. Yeah, but it's in my opinion, man, it's nothing to see here. In my opinion, it's nothing to see here. He was just out there being honest. That's the way I look at it.
I think the thing that kind of got people the most was, well, Raider fans the most, was like the Patrick Mahomes thing, where he said Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT. I think that kind of rubbed Raiders fans the wrong way. No Diddy, but I think, but he's being factual, bro. Like, there's not a better quarterback on the planet, possibly to ever play, in all honesty, than Patrick Mahomes. I think he's just keeping it real. But at the same time, like, when you line it up, right? And when he lined it up, he picked him and went to the house with it, stared him down the whole way. So as long as you can keep all that stuff outside the lines, but when you step inside those lines, as long as you know who the enemy is and you know what the job at hand is, I'm all for it.
Right. Well, let's move it along, man. Hey, one of our favorite segments of the show, man, notable quotables, man, where we talk about, just any quotes, anything Raider related. And right now, the quarterback talk is obviously the topic of the conversation. And Michael Penix is the other guy. We just heard Jack Jones talk about his guy that he played with in college. I'm sure good friends with Jaden Daniels. But realistically, there's a good chance he might go in the top 2. It is what it is. But there are some other quarterbacks the Raiders can go after. And Mike Lombardi, the guy that's in exile, Raider Nation does not like him, was on the Pat McAfee show, and I believe he was talking about Penix and his injury history and how teams view injuries on certain prospects in the draft. And I'm going to go ahead and play the clip right now.
Well, that has nothing to do with the GM tone. So what happens is that you go to the combine and you go around the 7 tables, right? And the orthopedics from every team look at you. And then they put a grade on you, their grade on you. And it comes back to you a month later, 2 weeks later. The trainer brings it up to you and says, hey, a grade, we gave Penix a 4, which would be, a level where you couldn't draft him in the first round, or we gave him a 2, which we could. And then you've got to work your way through it. And that's what we're going to see now is the first 2 weeks of April, well, people will be brought back into the building to get another medical, to get actually a hands on the player, so the doctors can maybe enhance the grade to where you want to pick them earlier, or keep the grade the same based on what you already think is. But no one, not even all the great mockers all over the country know what the medicals are on these players. And you have to factor that in because they're all different for every team. And so that's going to be, that has nothing to do with the G.
So that's former NFL exec Lombardi. I know we don't want to talk about him, but he's still making some points here. And while we play this, I'm gonna play this, and then we're gonna see how it relates to Mike Mayock the other day. Had an interview on a YouTube channel. I think John Middlecoff, shout out to him, had a good interview with Mike Mayock, and he brings up a good point about how if a player doesn't pass, if the doctors pretty much don't, pass a player as a guy that they can draft due to medicals, they can't draft him. They're going to be overruled. And let me just go ahead and play the clip here in just a second.
And the conversation in the draft room, we'd have our doctors and our trainers and John and I and a couple high-level people in there. And I would be saying what you just said. I'd be like, wait a minute. 4 years in a row at Indiana, he couldn't finish a season. Yet he transfers and starts every game the last 2. And from my perspective, he had 2 ACLs, he had a clavicle, a shoulder. Now, doctor, you tell me the other side of it. I know he hadn't missed a game in 2 years. To me, that means he's clean.
Yeah.
Right? The only way, to me, this kid gets minimized medically is if the doctor pounds the table in your draft room and says, you're not even going to get one contract out of this kid. He's got a bad knee or a bad shoulder. If the doctor doesn't say that, then this kid's got to be given a clean bill of health. And the conversation.
So I was actually speaking on another part of the podcast, the interview with Mike Mayock, where he talks about a point in time where they wanted Mike Mayock and John Gruden wanted to draft who is now the guard for the Kansas City Chiefs, Trey Turner, I believe. Trey Turner, the offensive guard. And
Trey Turner, Trey Smith.
Trey Smith. I think it's Trey Smith. Trey Smith, Trey Turner. My bad. But they were trying to draft him, but their doctor said no, because I think there was a heart issue, there was something going on. Raiders doctors weren't comfortable, and they gave it a no-go. Fast forward, the Kansas City Chiefs end up drafting him in the 5th, 6th round, where the Raiders were at the time, and they had a possibility of getting him. The Raiders said no, and now he's started ever since for the Chiefs, and Chiefs have one of the best offensive lines in football. But that's a good example of how, it kind of lets you into how that draft process works and how they look at certain players. And it's not about, a GM saying, I want this guy. There's a lot of other people that also have a say in who gets drafted too as well. So what did you think about what Mike Mayock had to say about, because Michael Penix, that's who he talked about in this clip.
Yes. Yeah, man. But both of them spoke about it. And, one of the things they talked about is, I think Mike Lombardi brought up, like, teams will get to look at players in early April. Essentially what he's talking about right there are 30 visits. Michael Penix had a 30 visit with us. I'm sure our medical staff, gave him a rigorous, physical, got a real good look at what he is in terms of health. And I think that will, go a long way toward the decision that we have to make in terms of who we draft at quarterback. It's crazy to think how much power that doctors have over who an organization can draft. You would think it all resides on the head coach, or it all resides on the general manager and with ownership. But if a doctor says no go, then the doctor has the final say, and it's no go. So when you have a guy like Michael Penix and the doctor say don't do it, then you can't do it. If only those same doctors had been involved with the signing of Jimmy Garoppolo, we might be in a better position today.
Yeah, man. And you know what? And I think you're probably the one that brought this to my attention. I was really thinking about this. I don't know. We were talking about Penix, and I've kind of run with it a little bit here. Is the fact that Penix, his play style in Indiana was completely different from how his play style is in Washington, which kind of tells me maybe there's a little bit of growth there. Like, okay, he knew that he was super athletic. He was that running quarterback in Indiana, but he was hurt every year when he played in the Indiana with that type of play style. But he comes to the Huskies. He's more of a pocket passer. He's like, wait, I'm a healthier quarterback. I'm playing within my game. I'm playing within the pocket, but obviously I'm gonna use my legs to buy some times, maybe give a few first downs here and there. But for the most part, I'm gonna be in the pocket. And that's what you kind of want at the quarterback position. At the end of the day, like, the main responsibility is you got to be able to distribute that football and be accurate with it, and be on time and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, like, you also have to get some first downs here and there with your legs, which we kind of can see that he can possibly do because he ran like a 4.5, and there's that. But I think everybody's kind of stuck on that, the 4 years that he got hurt, the 4 years that it's just, and you know what? That might be to the Raiders' advantage. Maybe that's their way of getting a Michael Penix. If he wasn't hurt all those years, he wouldn't have that on his resume, and he probably would be taken a lot higher, and the Raiders would probably be out of luck as far as drafting a quarterback. But
Facts.
it is what it is, man. But let's move it along, man. We got another one. If you want to give the intro to this third clip, notable quotable, got a little bonus clip here.
Yeah, man. So
Jason Fitz.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Our guy Jason Fitz. He did a segment talking about Michael Penix and some of his fits. Of course, you talk about the Raiders first. There was an interesting one in there. We all know Jason Fitz. He does work with the Raiders as well, so his opinion, he could have some inside information. Maybe he is hearing some rumblings within the walls, over there in Henderson, Nevada.
Okay. Hold on one second.
Jack was probably high.
Yeah, he might have been.
Jack Jones sounds like a straight LA dude for real, man. It's no mistaking where Jack Jones is from, bro. You know exactly where he's from.
Exactly. But here's the clip.
It's time for Coulda, Shoulda, Woulda with quarterback prospect Fitz and Michael Penix Jr. Could they, my beloved Raiders? Yes, of course. We all know they need a quarterback. Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell is that quarterback room. And frankly, if you're Antonio Pierce, you want a quarterback you can hitch your wagon to that can be the face of the franchise. Plus, you go into an offense where you're going to be throwing the ball to one of the best wide receivers in the NFL and a very good wide receiver room. This makes sense for a lot of reasons. The question is 13 or trade down or second round. That's what we don't know the answer to. What about would they? Would the Saints take a flyer? I mean, realistically, if you think about what the Saints are up against, they've got another couple of years on Derek Carr's contract. But then what? He didn't look great in his year with them. So you're suddenly looking at a new offense where you've got Kubiak coming over from San Francisco, and he's going to bring some of those passing concepts. It makes a lot of sense to sit a quarterback for a couple of years and develop your Jordan Love. I'm not sure it's an immediate perfect fit between coach and quarterback, but I think the time they could get because of the contract for Carr gives them the opportunity to develop it slowly. And then, should they? The Patriots? The answer is maybe. And where this gets particularly interesting is in the second round. If there's an opportunity where one of these quarterbacks fall, let's remember that the Patriots have a very high pick in the second round. If they shock the world and don't go quarterback at 3 because they trade down or because they take somebody like Marvin Harrison Jr., is it the worst strategy at the top of the second round to address your quarterback room with somebody like Michael Penix Jr.? Should he still be there? Actually makes sense.
Okay, so he makes some points, and we talked about this in the past. Is like, hey, look, if the Raiders don't take quarterback, if Penix at 13, they leave the possibility of him getting taken by the next team that's drafting after the Raiders, and I believe it's the Saints. right?
Yes.
I think the Saints are right there, so they can easily be like, all right, well, this Carr thing is not going according to plan. Let's have a plan B. It's a new OC in town, so Carr and that OC are not really. They didn't come in together. It's not like they're, it's not like Clint Kubiak. That's his guy. It's just he inherited him. So there's a possibility he wants a young guy back there. So I can see that happening. And then we talked about in the show, we talked about like the Miami Dolphins. They're going through contract negotiations with Tuiasosopo. I said Tuiasosopo. That's how big a Raider fan I am, man. I'm over here talking about
dog,
monkeys.
you took it all the way back.
I took it all the way back, man. I took it all the way back, man.
Ironically, that is out. Tuiasosopo went to Washington as well, so that is a smooth connection.
But Tua, the quarterback, man, he's going through contract negotiations. Do they want to pay for a guy that has multiple concussions, where he's throwing up gang signs? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day,
Tua gang banging, bro. That's crazy. That's wild, man. That's wild.
But yeah, and then you got teams like the Rams that hey, Stafford is a guy that's getting up there in age, still good. But hey, it's good to maybe possibly get a guy that he can groom. Penix maybe. There's so many different routes where he can go. There's so many, there's a lot of teams that can probably use him. And he just made a point that the Patriots can possibly take him if they pass a quarterback. And you know what? If the Patriots pass on a quarterback at number 3 and they trade down, then that's the Raiders' chance to get to number 3 if Jayden Daniels is there. So
if Jayden Daniels is there, yeah.
If they can beat out the Vikings, I feel like the Vikings is the number 1 team right now. Yeah. The Raiders have to compete with to get to the tops, to get the highest spot as far as trade spots to get a QB. But what were your thoughts on what Jason Fitz was able to talk about as far as the scenarios with how these teams to get quarterbacks, especially Penix?
Yeah, man, I think that just this conversation, right, just leading back to what Mike Lombardi was saying, leading back to what Mike Mayock was saying, and talking about what Jason Fitz was saying, Michael Penix is not going to last into the second round, okay? All it takes is for one team that needs a quarterback, their doctors to say, hey, you know what? We believe we can get at least 1 contract out of him, possibly 2 contracts out of him. And they're going to pull the trigger. Other than that, that's the only thing people can say about Michael Penix is that, hey, you know what? He's been hurt. When he's on the field, he wins, right? I think his first 12 starts at Indiana, he won 12 of them. Or he won 10 of them, right? Mm-hmm. Then he goes to Washington, to the Huskies. They're 4-8 the year before he gets there. Then they're a double-digit winner. They win a bowl game, too, I believe. And then the very next year, they're Pac-12 champions. They're in a national championship game. So, I mean, on the field, his ability to play the position is unquestioned. So the only thing you have to go on is saying, you know what, hey, we think he can get hurt. But if you protect your quarterback, right, in this league where the rules are set up to give quarterbacks the maximum protection possible, I think that mitigates some of the risks that you're taking by drafting him, because the rules are designed, you can't hit him low. He's a guy that stays in the pocket, so you can't hit him high or you can't hit him low when he's in the pocket. Only time you can really hit him like that is when he's outside the pocket, which we already said he rarely does, and he only does it when he absolutely has to. So I think the way the league is set up is for a guy like him to succeed. I think he fits great in a Luke Getsy offense, who did some very cool vertical stuff last year. And I just think it's a natural fit here. I don't think we have to worry so much about Minnesota. I think people have kind of attached Minnesota more so to JJ McCarthy, who was going to probably flame out because he's just not good of a player. He was carried to a national championship by a great running game and a great defense. And I think that Michigan alum, guys like Brady and guys like Jim Harbaugh, of course, they're going to hype him up because he's a Michigan alum. But I don't think he's going to be that good when he gets to the league. As evidenced by his last game against a pretty porous Washington Huskies defense, I think he went 10 for 18 for like 154 yards, against a bad defense. So, I mean, on the biggest stage, you pass for like 55% less than 150 yards, and you will QBR of like 55. You know, so like against, like I said, against against the defense, ironically, that Bo Nix had great games against twice.
Right. Man, Severe out here dropping facts. So like let's move it along, man. It's that was notable quotables, man. But let's move on to what's real and what's not. And this is where we put up a statement. You guys react, including us, to that statement, if it's real or it's not. And the first statement is Luke Getsy will lead a top 15 offense in the 2024 season. Is that real or is it not?
You know what? I'm going to go ahead out on a limb and I'm going to say that's real, because I believe that we're going to get Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix in this draft. I'm speaking it into existence. If we roll out there with Aiden O'Connell, that my confidence in that prediction it drastically, sharply dips.
Right.
But you look, even if let's say Gardner Minshew wins the job, right? I think we give our flowers to Shane Steichen. We believe he's one of the top offensive coordinators in the league. With Anthony Richardson missing most of the year, with Michael Pittman missing a good chunk of the year, with Jonathan Taylor missing a good chunk of the year, the Colts had a top 15 offense. So I think that we can do it. But that I think our chances increase greatly if we have Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix.
I'm gonna go with not, man. Me and Graham are on the same page, man.
Yeah, hey, look, some Mike Lombardi level haters.
Well, the thing is, it's gonna be an improvement. Put it this way: I think our offense is gonna be an improvement from what we seen last year. But until I see it, that's when I believe it with Luke Getsy, because we haven't seen it with him. You can talk about, he's had success as a wide receiver coach with Tay Adams, all but he wasn't the guy though. You know what I mean? It's a difference when you're offensive coordinator. It's a difference when you calling plays, and there's still a question mark there. So I'm gonna say this is cap. I'm gonna say this is not real. And earlier today, I actually asked Raider Nation if did the Raiders make the right hire at offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, and this is what you guys had to say here. Let me go ahead and put this on the screen. And it's right here. It says 46% said yes and 54% said no. The bottom line is Getsy was the backup option. He was the one. He was the one where you called that first chick and she wasn't she wasn't answering.
She was messing with you.
And you called her back. He was the backup. That's what it was. He was the backup plan at the end of the day. And I don't know if that's a good thing, man. I'm not sure if it's I'm gonna be positive. I hope it works out. Yeah. But we can all agree that that's a big question mark on this team, is that offense, and is Luke Getsy the guy? It's a huge question mark, and it looks like he might have a young QB this year too to coach, and hopefully he does a better job than what he did with your guy Justin Fields.
Man, we all know the elite talent that Justin Fields is. If you couldn't make it work with him, then who can you make it work with? Nah, man. I mean, like I said, it's a wait and see. I think you have some valid points in terms of the difference between being a position coach and an offensive coordinator. And the one time we saw him as offensive coordinator, he didn't do a great job. Now he was dealing with a very flawed pupil at quarterback, but he's still in improvement mode right now. So we'll see.
Right. So next up on what's real, what's not. The next statement here is, let me go ahead and get this out the way. Right tackle is a bigger need than cornerback on the team. Is that real or is it not?
So I will say this. I will say this. I think right tackle is a bigger need. I will say that. But I will also say this. If we miss out on quarterbacks, right? Let's say Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Michael Penix are gone, right? And we have to choose either right tackle, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, or a cornerback. If Quinyon Mitchell is there, I'm taking Quinyon Mitchell over all those guys. He's a better prospect as a pro than Bo Nix, much better prospect than J.J. McCarthy, and I think he's a better prospect than any of the right tackles that will be available right there. I actually think that there will be some tackles that will be available in the second round, possibly in the second round, that have a chance to be the best tackles in this draft class, right? I think a guy like Tyler Guyton has a chance to be the best tackle in this draft. A guy like Amarius Mims.
If he's there.
If he's there, I think a guy like Amarius Mims has a chance to be the best tackle in this draft, right? I think that's two guys already right there, right? So I think those guys have extremely high upside, and I don't think there's a corner in this draft that has the mix of athleticism, productivity, and tenacity that Quinyon Mitchell has. He has everything you want in a corner, right? The guy, Mike spoke about it last week. He's built like a running back, tackles like a safety, covers like an elite corner. Like, what more do you want? And he's a guy that plays with a chip on his shoulder. And I think he's a guy that, you put him in a room with Jack Jones and with Nate Hobbs, I think that becomes an elite unit. And one thing that we've seen that the old Raider teams did, and we've kind of gotten away with it, but the old Raider teams, and this was Al Davis' philosophy, right? He liked to build from the corners. Those are usually the guys he liked to have elite positions at. He liked to have elite corners. And then he kind of, found some defensive linemen that can kind of get at the quarterback. Well, we already have three we think can get at the quarterback. We have Max Crosby, we have Malcolm Kuntz, and we have Christian Wilkins. You pair that with two high-level corners on the outside, I think you have a lockdown defense.
Yeah, man, I'm going to say this is real, man. Right tackle is the bigger need than cornerback, even though cornerback is definitely a need on this team. We need some depth. We need to add some talent. We got some guys on I think Nate Hobbs might be on his last year of his rookie deal.
I think so.
I don't know where Jack Jones, I know they picked him up for waivers, so I think he might be still on his rookie deal, so they got some time with him. But I think they need an outside corner because Nate Hobbs is a nickel corner. So they need they definitely need to add some depth in that room for sure. But when you're talking about right tackle, bro, we lost Illuminor in free agency. Thayer Munford might not fit this offensive zone blocking system. We just heard Sanjeet just talk about how, a guy like Thayer Munford, he's not really too confident in him. And we know Sanjeet's like one of the biggest online guys out there. And he's not confident in him. Maybe if you move him inside at right guard, but he's just not, he might not be that quick. He might not be that athletic enough to be put out there on a consistent basis. So this is where at 13, I disagree, man, because there's going to be some players at that right tackle position. I know you're like, oh, I know Quinyon Mitchell he's your guy, but there's going to be some guys at that right tackle spot that you can take that are pretty close. And if they're pretty close, maybe if Quinyon Mitchell got the edge, if it's close, if it's like it's right there, if it can go either way, if someone can make an argument for this guy and this other guy can make an argument for this guy, that means it's pretty close, then I'm going to go with the bigger need, which is right tackle. You know what I mean? Whether it's Troy Fatanu, the other day I think my guy Big Mike, we drafted J.C. Latham, Fuaga. You know what I mean? There's so many different routes the Raiders can go at right tackle, and this is if their quarterback targets are out the window. Like whoever at quarterback is pretty much not there, and especially let's say if the Raiders decide it's a little too risky to draft Penix at 13. Don't you think it would be important to get that right tackle if you have an idea of maybe trading up to get a guy like Penix? Probably makes sense to combine that left-hand quarterback, protect his blind side. You know what I mean? 2 birds, 1 stone. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. So I think right tackle becomes even a bigger need if you get a left-hand quarterback like Penix as well. So, but I feel you. I mean, Keon Mitchell is a good talented corner, and we can easily go that route. And Tom Telesco tends to go best player available in the first couple rounds. That's why he probably does pretty well in the first couple rounds of the draft. But we'll see how it shakes out, man. This has been a great show, man. Great show. From Sanjeet, we talked about the draft. You know what I mean? We didn't even get a chance to talk about we didn't talk about no free agency. It's pretty much done. It's over at this point. The Raiders are probably not going to be signing anybody until after the draft. And they're going to get some more money too. I think they're top 10 in money available.
They're 9th right now, I want to say.
They're 9th, and they're about to get another $20 million or so when they get Jimmy G off the books from that June 1st cut. So we'll pay attention. We'll keep you guys updated. I know next week is the beginning of off-season workouts, so we'll keep you guys updated. There's going to be a lot of things going on. There's always things coming out every day, man. Like we had the Jack Jones rant today. Mike Mayock talking about what he went through and experienced as a GM. You know, like, I think Mike Mayock, he's trying to get back on. You think he's trying to get back on TV? Or is he done with that? He's getting old. He's getting old, though.
He's getting older, but you know, you can stay on TV for a long time. I think he would like to get back on TV. I think he loved it. I think right now he said he's calling games. He's doing some scouting for some other teams, but I think he loves doing the TV thing. So I think he's definitely angling to get back on TV. Definitely angling to get back on TV.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And did you feel like he was did you think at any point did he throw John Gruden under the bus? At any point during that interview?
I want to say he threw
took
him
responsibility,
under the bus.
but he also kind of described, well, you know how John Gruden is. He's just a very emotional guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but he
wouldn't
didn't
say he
say
threw
it
him
was
under
his
the
fault.
bus.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say threw him under the bus. He like he saw the bus was about to come. He nudged John Gruden off the curb and let the bus hit him. I don't think he threw him under it, but I think he kind of nudged him. He made a few comments there where it's like that was a little bit of a shot. There's a little bit of a shot. So I mean, he said some stuff before too, but when he was clowning John Gruden always wanting to trade up. Oh, we got to trade up and get this guy. You know, John Gruden. That's why Pharaoh liked John Gruden so much, man. Pharaoh be trying to man.
Hey man, this is the year though. This is the year, man. This is the year to trade up, man. This is the year to trade up.
Man.
But yeah, man. Hey, yeah. I think last week, be on the lookout for. I think check that out, man. We had our first mock draft. There's a 2-round mock draft. We did 2 versions, one being just straight up, and then the other being with trades. So check that out. That was our collab with Big Mike, which is also coming up this week. So be on the lookout for that. We're gonna let's add another round this week. We should add another round. Make it a 3-round mock draft, and we'll do the same thing. We'll keep it going, man. So 3 rounds straight up, and then 3 rounds where we're moving and we're dealing some picks. We're trying to see where we can get up in the draft, man. And just keep it realistic, man, because anything can happen during the draft. And we'll see how it shakes out, man. We appreciate everybody coming through. This has been a great show. Make sure to hit that like button. Clock in. Make sure to clock in or clock out. However way, if you guys are heading out, clock out. If you guys are just tuning in, clock in and hit that like button. Subscribe. You have to subscribe. Hit that notification bell. All that good stuff. So we keep coming back and making this content. We love talking about the Raiders, obviously. This is a Raiders channel. We're going live on both our channels. As you see on the screen, actually, my name is kind of missing. You guys can't even see my name, but you see the Severe Raider on the screen. Let me see if I can put this on the screen. We'll figure it out.
Make sure y'all head over to IG, check out Raider Resistance. You want to illest in the game doing it. And, man, this is where y'all come for all your Raiders news, right? All your Raiders news and information. Just remember, who was the first guy to say Jaden Daniels was QB1? Oh, this guy. Well, who was the first guy to say Quinyon Mitchell was QB1? Oh, this guy. Who told y'all that Justin Fields was trash?
Man.
Oh, man, I'm right here, baby. I'm right here. Come back, y'all. Stay with us.
Hey, Cool Kev, man. Hey, you've been traumatized, man. That's all I'm gonna say, man. You've been
Facts, man.
you've been traumatized. But yeah, man, hey, like I said, we appreciate everybody coming through. So what's next up is we are going to be doing our weekly collab with Big Mike Raider. There's not a name to that collab just yet, but it's a collab right now. It's me, Severe, Big Mike. Just be on the lookout. I think we're trying to shoot for Thursday. Thursday is the day that we drop it, so make sure to be on the lookout of that. That's why it's very important to hit that notification bell. Go ahead and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when we go live, when we drop new content, including new shows, which, like I said, is coming up this Thursday, no later than Friday. And, yeah, man, anything you want to tell the people where they can find you, anything that you want to let them know that you're planning?
Yes, sir, man. You guys know where to find me at The Severe Raider on IG, at The Severe Raider on Twitter. Of course, on YouTube. Check your boy out. I'm going to be dropping some stuff very soon, so be on the lookout for that. Probably do some personal mock drafts as well as some prospect rankings. P.S. Just a little quick hint. JJ McCarthy is not ranked high in my quarterback ranks. It's just a little preview. So JJ McCarthy fans. But shout out to SoCal Sal. Call me now for your free reading. Read that. Crystal balls out here, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, look, we like I said, we appreciate everybody coming through, man. I know we were, you know what it is when we come on, man. We like to come late night, but when we come on, hey, we on here. It's been almost 2 hours, man. We make sure that we make it worth it for you guys to just pay attention to us and watch the show and just be a part of the conversation at the end of the day. And also let us know. We weren't able to get to everybody's comments in the chat. Make sure to leave a comment after the show ends and let us know your thoughts. Who do you want to pick at 13? Do you want the Raiders to trade up? How do you feel about Lou Getsy, the coaching staff? You know, the direction of the Raiders right now. Let us know. We see some people talking about J.J. McCarthy and the J.J. Penix and you know, Mike Mayock interview and Jack Jones rant. Man, there's so much to talk about. Let us know in the comment section down below after the video ends, man. So we appreciate everybody coming through, man. Until next time, peace.
Just win, baby.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.